Okay, go
yes,
ahead.
sir. If the reality alone exists and all is the reality, the world also cannot be excluded from that reality. The universe is real. If it does not reveal to us in its forms and powers the reality that it is, if it seems only a persistent and yet changing movement in space and time, this must be not because it is unreal or because it is not at all that, but because it is a progressive self expression, a manifestation, an evolving self development of that in time, which our consciousness cannot yet see in its total or its essential significance. In this sense, we can say that it is that and not that because it does not disclose all the reality through any form or some of its forms of self-expression, but still all its forms are forms of the substance and being of that reality. All finites are in their spiritual essence the infinite, and if we look deep enough into them, manifest to intuition the identical and infinite. It is content, it is contended indeed that the universe cannot be a manifestation because the reality has no need of manifestation, since it is forever manifest to itself. But so equally it can be said that the reality has no need of self illusion or illusion of any kind, no need to create a Mayic universe. The absolute can have no need of anything, but still there can be not coercive of its freedom, not binding on it, but an expression of its self force, the result of its will to become, and an imperative of a supreme self effectuating force, a necessity of self creation, born of the power of the Absolute to see itself in time. This imperative represents itself to us as a will to create, a will of self expression, but it may be better represented as a force of being of the absolute, which displays itself as a power of itself in action. If the absolute is self-evident to itself in eternal timelessness, it can also be self-manifest to itself in eternal motion of time. Even if the universe is only a phenomenal reality, still it is a manifestation or phenomenon of Brahman. For since all is Brahman, phenomenon and manifestation must be the same thing. The imputation of unreality is a superfluous conception, otiose and unnecessarily embarrassing, since whatever distinction is needed is already there in the concept of time and the timeless eternal and the concept of manifestation.
Yeah. Okay. Again, the discussion of the problem created by the experience of nirvana. You see the physical world as unreal, and is that the final experience or is there some other experience? It is so convincing that the world is unreal that you think that that's the ultimate truth, but it is not the ultimate truth. This is what he is discussing. So he has discussed so many other possibilities now. He has seen that there is the, I repeat, there is the percipient, the one who is seeing, then there is the perceived, which is the percept, or he uses the word percept, the world which you are seeing, and the instrument by which the percipient is seeing the percept. And he has examined all these things and he has come to the conclusion that not a single case can you say that the world is unreal. You can always come back to the all the arguments fail and you have to admit that the world is real. Okay. So now again he is discussing more the suppose the Brahman consciousness is the only reality. That's what he's discussing. And there are two hypotheses. One is that there is a reality and everything is that reality. Both you have to take. There is an absolute reality and everything that exists is that reality. If you if you take these two hypotheses to begin with, okay, then the world has to be real because the world exists. This is what is. So we'll read each sentence and see. If the reality alone exists, and what is that reality? In the experience of nirvana, You see that the world is unreal, but there is a reality, Brahman consciousness, which is absolutely real. Nothing can make it unreal. If that reality alone exists and all is a reality, everything that exists is that reality. The world also cannot be excluded from that reality. Logic. I am beginning with two theorems. I am beginning with two hypotheses. Okay. I am beginning with two statements. I am taking it for real. And then the logic says that the world cannot be anything but that reality. This is what he's saying. The universe is real. If it does not reveal to us in its forms and powers the reality that it is, if it seems only a persistent and yet changing movement in space and time, this must be not because it is unreal, but because it is not at all that. But or because it is not at all that, but because it's a progressive self-expression, a manifestation, an evolving self-development of that. He is using the word that again, okay, again and again. Because why is he saying that and not anything else? Because it is impossible to describe it. You can only talk of it as that. Okay, that. In time, which our consciousness cannot yet see in its total or its essential significance. Huge sentence, and we'll see. There are actually two sentences, but anyway, if it does not reveal itself. So now he is saying, I'm telling you that everything is real, but then the experience of nirvana is telling you that the world is unreal. So he's saying, if it does not reveal itself to us, okay, and in its forms and powers, if the world seems to be unreal in the forms and powers, that reality, the reality that it is, if it seems only a persistent and yet changing movement of space in space and time. Note the word persistent. The world exists permanently, and yet it is going on changing. Okay? Changing movement in space and time. In the spacelessness and timelessness, it does not change. So, but in space and time, it is changing all the time. Mutability. This must be not because it is unreal. Why are you interpreting as unreal? It's not necessary. You are unnecessarily thinking that it is unreal. Or because it is not at all that. The world is, you can't say that it is not that. It is because you can have another conception. You can say that it's a slowly progressing thing, like everything you see in the world. Okay, so extend that to the Brahman also. The seed is not the tree, but the seed can become the tree. There's a progressive self-expression. There's no need to say that the seed is not the tree. You can't say that. The seed becomes the tree. That is possible. We see that in the physical world. So why not extend that concept to the Brahman? The Brahman is the seed, but it can also produce the universe, just as a seed can produce the tree. The Brahman is the seed and the world is a tree. It's a development. It's very possible to, and there's nothing illogical about it. So this is what Shendra is saying. Because it's a progressive self-expression, a manifestation, an evolving self-development of that in time, which our consciousness cannot yet see in its total or its essential significance. So the problem is with the instrument of knowledge, neither the reality nor its expression in the world. There is no problem with the seed and no problem with the tree. Both are real. But when you are seeing the seed, you shouldn't jump to conclusions and say it is not the tree. Okay, that's what he's saying. Why should you jump to conclusions prematurely? Yes, it is true that the seed does not show the tree. Okay, but it is, wait patiently and then you will see that it is developing. You yourself also, every human being has developed himself from one single seed, okay, which is fertilized and it becomes a human being. And it's constantly changing. You are a baby, you are an adolescent, you are an old man, okay, and then you disappear. It doesn't mean to say that you are unreal. There is a reality in you. These are the forms and powers. The body, mind, life are only forms and powers. That's what he says. Okay. In this sense, we can say that it is that and not that. So what does this mean? We can, in this sense, we can say that it is that, it is a Brahman, and not that, not the world. You can say that, okay? Because it is true that when you see the seed, you don't see the tree. So at that time you can say, it's not illogical to say that the seed is not yet the tree. But if you add the word yet, then it's okay. But if you don't add the word yet, then you'll be wrong. You can't say it categorically that the seed is not the tree. No? So,
What does the second that mean?
Pardon?
What does the second that mean?
Okay, yeah. We can say that it is that. That means the Brahman. And not that means the world. So if you are in the Nirvana consciousness, you can say that the Brahman is the only reality. But the world is not the reality. You can say that. If you are impatient, no? That's what all the yogis say. Because they have not gone, they are not patient enough to go to the next level. So certainly saying you can, in this sense, we can say, it's not wrong for the ascetic to say that the Brahman is not the world. You can say that. No? Is that clear? He is granting the ascetic the right to say that the seed is not the tree, that the Brahman consciousness is not the world. He is saying that at that level it is real, it's fact. Okay? The first that is Brahman, the second that is the world. In this sense, in what sense? The progressive self-expression. In this sense, we can say that it is this, we can say that it is that. The first is the Brahman, and not that, the other one, the world. Okay? Yasmin, clear?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because it does not disclose all the reality through any form or some of its forms of self-expression. The seed is not telling you that I am going to become the tree. So, but if you are in a consciousness where you see that the seed is telling you that I am going to become the tree, and that's possible at a higher level of consciousness. Your consciousness reaches such a level that you see that the Brahman consciousness itself is becoming the world. But that you don't see in the higher mind. You see at a higher level. Okay? So you have to go there and develop the capacity to see the tree in the seed. Okay? That's what Shri is saying. Because it does not disclose all the reality through any form or some of its forms of self-expression. It is, when you see a form, it does not show you the reality behind that form. When you are at one level, but if you are at a higher level, you can see the divine presence in even the form. I and you and all the others, we cannot see the psychic being in human beings. But that does not mean that it doesn't exist. Okay? A yogi will be able to see your psychic being. He can see the divine presence everywhere. Okay? So you have to go to another level of consciousness. All finites are, in their spiritual essence, the infinite. And if you look deep enough into them, manifest. Just 1 second. Yeah. So I'm reading that again. All finites. What are the finites? All the forms in the physical world are finites. Are in their spiritual essence the infinite. Remember the famous lines of William Blake, no? To see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. So many people have experienced that the finite and the infinite are always together. All finites are in their spiritual essence. Note that, the real thing. Okay. The infinite, they are the infinite. And if you look deep enough into them, manifest to intuition the identical and infinite. So if you look deep enough, when can you look deep enough? When you are at a higher level of consciousness and you can see the divine presence in everything. Okay. A yogi can, depending at what level he is, he can see the divine presence in everybody. Okay. Mother can see the psychic being in everybody, and she knows that this psychic being is awake or it is not yet awake. Sometimes she, remember that famous example of that American lady, and she saw her psychic being bigger than her body. Okay, and then she concluded that most probably that will be it will develop into the supramental body. Okay, so you can see if you are at a higher level of consciousness.
May I say something?
Of course you can.
Amal had once told me that if a person is open to his psychic being, and he was,
Yes.
then he says you can see anybody else also who is open to their psychic being, and you can even see to some extent their psychic being, whether it's on the surface or whether it's buried deep down.
Of course. But you know, there are gradations also in the opening to the psychic being. Okay? The opening, you can feel a presence, you can sometimes feel more intimate, and when the psychic is coming forward and absolutely occupying your and guiding you also, you are not yet identified with your psychic being. There is a whole gradation. Okay? Sometimes many children are happy for no reason at all. That's a psychic influence coming through. They simply feel happy for no reason at all. So that does not mean to say that you're opening to the psychic being also. There is a gradation. Finally, you must be absolutely capable of becoming the psychic being. So there is a grade. What Amal says. Yeah, tell me.
And once he told me that, like I told him that since you are open to your psychic being, you should be happy all the time.
Yes.
Said, no, dear. But then there are times when you yourself withdraw yourself from the psychic being.
That's right.
And then you are miserable.
That's
so
right.
although you're open to your psychic being, but still you are not open and you withdraw and then you suffer.
That's right. That's
So
exactly
that
what.
possibility is also there, that you are absolutely open, but still you yourself choose not to open yourself and suffer.
That's right, because there's the dark and the light in you. That's right. That's exactly what I'm saying, gradations. But once you have realized your psychic being, there is no misery at all. Everything becomes absolutely delight and beauty. Delight, beauty. You see all these things all the time. And love. These are the three characteristics of the psychic being. Extreme delight. Everything is delightful. And you love everything. Love, beauty, and delight. You start seeing the beauty in everything also. Okay, so we go to the next sentence. It is contended. Surendra is now saying some people consider it. Okay, the word contend means to consider, to state, to make a statement. It is contended indeed that the universe cannot be a manifestation because the reality has no need of manifestation. When you experience the Brahman consciousness, it is so complete in itself that it has no need of anything at all. So you can again say that. Okay, that's what Srimad is saying. Some people say that the Brahman is enough, sufficient to itself. It doesn't need anything. It is contended indeed that the universe cannot be a manifestation because the reality has no need of manifestation, since it is forever manifest to itself. That's some people say that, but you can't be categorical and say that the Brahman is incapable of manifestation. You can't say. You can say that it need not manifest itself. Perfect, no problem. But if you say that the Brahman has no right and has no power to become, then you are limiting it. So that's it's a contradiction. So that's what Srimad is saying. it is contended indeed that the universe cannot be a manifestation because the reality has no need of manifestation. But that doesn't mean to say it is true that it has no need of manifestation. But does it mean that it cannot? That's wrong. Okay. It can, without need also, I can eat. Okay. I'm not hungry. Okay. I don't need to eat. But if someone comes with very goodwill and gives me an apple, I will eat it to please him. I have the capacity to do that. I'm not hungry and I don't need to eat it. Let me tell you something interesting. Okay. Mother used to, in the playground, she used to distribute, okay, groundnuts, and sometimes she used to distribute fruits. Okay. Once there were peaches that had come from Japan. Okay. And while she was distributing, okay, she suddenly she picked up that one fruit and ate it in front of everybody. Now, did she need to eat it? There is no need for her to eat it, but that doesn't mean to say that she can't. That's what they're using that argument here. Clear, no? You can't say that it is no need of manifestation. Need of manifestation does not mean that it cannot. That's not true. You can always eat something even when you don't need to eat. Okay. Very often we do that. That's another matter. Okay. We don't need to eat, but we still eat. Okay. So it is contended indeed that the universe cannot be a manifestation because the reality has no need of manifestation, since it is forever manifest to itself. So equally, it can be said that the reality has no need of self-illusion or illusion of any kind, okay, or need to create a Mayic universe. You don't need to say that. Why do you have to say that? Okay, the absolute can have no need of anything. That's true. But still there can be not coercive of its freedom. That's exactly. It is not compelled not to manifest itself. It is not. It has got the power to manifest itself or not to manifest itself. When it is deciding not to manifest itself, it's the Sat. And when it is deciding to manifest itself, it is the world. Okay. Why are you limiting its power? That's not true. That's what Srila is saying. The absolute can have no need of anything, but still there can be not coercive, it's not forced, not coercive of its freedom, not binding on it, but an expression of its self-force, the result of its will to become. Okay. Suppose it's very simple logic, very simple logic. I have a thought in my mind. Okay. I have the choice to express it or not to express it. Sometimes I may think that it is necessary to express my thought. I express it. Suppose we are in a discussion, okay, and I have a thought, somebody is speaking something, and I agree or don't agree, and I have the right to speak it out, or I don't have I don't need to speak it out. There's a choice. Why do you want to restrict the choice of the Brahman consciousness? Because it is absolute freedom. That's what Srila is saying. This so, not coercive, the result of its will to become an imperative of self-effectuating force and necessity of self-creation, born of the power of the absolute to see itself in time. Okay, I want to see myself in another way. It has got, the Brahman has got the full right to do that. So I want to see myself in a static condition. That's a Brahman. I want to see myself in movement. I want to see what is there within me. Let me look at it. Then you start seeing, and then it's like a discovery of a forest. You see the forest and you want to discover what is there in it. Okay? Extend this idea to the, to the divine. Of course, you can always say that this idea is not right. But any comparison between the world and the divine, okay, you have to go only through relative images. You can't have absolute images. So the divine has a full right to look into himself and see what are the things that I can manifest. Or I know what I can manifest, but I want to manifest them. So that's what Srila is saying. A necessity of self-creation, born of the power of the absolute to see itself in time. I want to see myself outside time, Brahman consciousness, nirvana. I want to see myself in time, and that's the world. This imperative represents itself to us as a will to create, a will of self-expression. But it may be better represented as a force of being of the absolute, which displays itself as a power of itself in action. It is better to say that. The absolute holds its power back and it is in a static condition. And it is doing that with absolute freedom. It expresses itself in movement. That's the word. If the absolute is self-evident to itself in eternal timelessness and spacelessness, it can also be self-manifest to itself in eternal motion of time. Why? We don't need to restrict that. Even if the universe is only a phenomenal reality, still it's a manifestation or phenomenon of Brahman. For since all is Brahman, again the first hypothesis, all is Brahman, phenomenon and manifestation must be the same thing. The imputation of unreality is a superfluous conception, otiose, useless, meaningless, and unnecessarily embarrassing. You are unnecessarily forcing the Brahman to not create. Okay, that's not necessary at all. Since whatever distinction is needed is already there in the concept of time and the timeless eternal and the concept of manifestation. So these three things you have to add to the nirvana consciousness. The nirvana consciousness has to accept that there is a time and there is an eternal timelessness, but there is also a manifestation. There is something that connects them. If you start with this hypothesis, everything becomes not a problem but a solution. You find a solution to everything. Okay, so the one who is saying, the ascetic is saying that the physical world is unreal, he is going a little beyond his brief. Okay. He has the full right to say that the world now to me appears unreal. That is absolutely valid. But if he says that the world is forever unreal, then he is going beyond his brief. That's not his experience. How do you know? So that's wrong. That's what said this party wrong. Okay? So we go to the next sentence. We have got 15 minutes. Next para, I mean.
Shall
What?
I read?
Yes, do that.
The one thing that can be described as an unreal reality is our individual sense of separativeness and the conception of the finite as a self-existent object in the infinite. This conception, this sense are pragmatically necessary for the operations of the surface individuality and are effective and justified by their effects. They are therefore real to its finite reason and finite self-experience. But once we step back from the infinite, from the finite consciousness into the consciousness of the essential and infinite, from the apparent to the true person, the finite or the individual still exists, but as being and power and manifestation of the infinite. It has no independent or separate reality. Individual independence, entire separativeness are not necessary for individual reality, do not constitute it. On the other hand, the disappearance of these finite forms of the manifestation is evidently a factor in the problem, but does not by itself convict them of unreality. The disappearance may be only a withdrawal from manifestation. The cosmic manifestation of the timeless takes place in the successions of time. Its forms must therefore be temporary in their appearance on the surface, but they are eternal in their essential power of manifestation, for they are held always implicit and potential in the essence of things and in the essential consciousness from which they emerge. Timeless consciousness can always turn their abiding potentiality into terms of time actuality. The world would be unreal only if itself and its forms were images without substance of being, figments of consciousness presented to itself by the reality as pure figments and then abolished forever. But if manifestation or the power of manifestation is eternal, if all is the being of Brahman, the reality, then this unreality or illusoriness cannot be fundamental character of things or of the cosmos in which they make their appearance.
Yeah. Okay. Biggest para. So, one thing that is, so, he is constantly using the word essence. So we have to understand what is meant by the essence. Okay. Like take any fruit. It's a very good example of understanding the essence and the non-essential other things. Take any fruit. Okay. There is an outer skin. Sometimes you have the right to eat it. Sometimes you don't even have the right to eat it because it is something very superficial. So you don't, it is not as useful as it covers there's a covering. But you go slightly inside, there is the pulp which you can eat. But that also is not the essence. The essence is the seed which contains the whole thing. That is the essence. So exactly in that sense, that which can reproduce the whole is the essence. The divine is the essence, the world is the outer manifestation. It's the skin and maybe the pulp, but not the seed. Okay. This is what you have to understand by the essence. You know, very often uses the word essential and essence. So that's what it means. It can reproduce the whole. It has a capacity. Now, we'll read each sentence. I think we can finish it today. We have got 11 minutes. The one thing that can be described as an unreal reality is our individual sense of separativeness and the conception of a finite as a self-existent object in the infinite. Now, we are beginning a new para and we have to ask ourselves, what is Sri Aurobindo discussing here? As I've told you very often, after reading the para, you put a question to yourself. What is the heading? What is Sri Aurobindo saying in this para? Here he is saying that there is an experience where you see that unreality exists. Okay. But on the other hand, we are going on saying that the Brahman is the only reality and everything is the Brahman. Therefore, there is no unreality at all. Okay. That's the Advaita philosophy. But there is a time when you are experiencing the unreality. So he is discussing here, is there really any such thing as unreality? Can we say that there is an unreality? And if it is there, whether it is absolute or relative. That's what he is discussing here. Okay. So the one thing that can be tell me. Yeah. Okay. I continue.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So, is there an unreality? He's saying. So he's saying the one thing that can be described as an unreal reality is our individual sense of separativeness and the conception of the finite as a self-existent object in the infinite. When we are seeing ourselves as separate from everybody else, that is ultimately unreal. It disappears. There is a oneness which we don't see. So the ego and the sense of separativeness is the unreality. When I am seeing that a stone exists by itself, whether I exist or not doesn't matter, but the stone continues to exist, that's unreal. That's not the real way of looking at things. Okay, that's what Sri is saying. So there is a relative unreality, but there is no absolute unreality. Okay, that's what he's saying. This conception, this sense of unreality, this sense are pragmatically necessary for the operations of the surface individuality and are effective and justified by their effects. So, the unreality that you experience has got a purpose. That's what he's saying. Okay. The covering of the fruit and the other things, okay, it's all there, it has a purpose. It is hiding the reality. But then you come back to why is it hiding? Then we come back again to that question of the play. There is a hide and seek game that is going on. So if that is, you admit that there is a hide and seek going on, then hiding is necessary. And it is hiding the truth. And if it is hiding the truth, it is unreal. That's what he's saying. Okay? This conception, the conception of unreal, this sense are pragmatically necessary. In the physical world is necessary to have the unreality. For the operations of the surface individuality and are effective and justified by their effects. How is it effective and why is it necessary? Because if I see the whole, I see all four of you as one, how am I going to address the problems of one to the other? I can't. I have to see its difference. If mother sees all the 2000 ashramites as one, okay, oneness, then how is she going to deal with each one separately? If she is she has to deal with each one separately. No? So that's what is necessary. So unreality, seeing separateness is the unreality, and that is necessary. We must see each thing separately. And in the physical world, it is absolutely true. If I see evil and falsehood as good and real, then I'm going to be in trouble. So in the physical world, it is absolutely essential that there should be a separateness, which is ultimately unreal. That's what Sibli is explaining. Okay? It is justified, it is effective and justified by their effects. They are therefore real in its finite reason and infinite and finite experience. The unreality is real in the physical world. That's what he's saying. The sense of separateness. But once we step back from the finite consciousness into the consciousness of the essential and infinite, there you are, okay? You are going into the essential and infinite, from the apparent to the true person. Now note the word person with a P cap, okay? So that's the real character of the person, true person. Now he's not using a lowercase p, he's using a big T, the Brahman consciousness or the psychic being or whatever. The finite or the individual still exists, but as being and power and manifestation of the infinite. So when you are only limited to the surface of things, you don't see the reality. And therefore, it is very, very useful for us to deal in the physical world. But when I see the oneness of things, then I don't need to see the difference in the physical world because it's not necessary anymore. I'm seeing the reality. But part of it continues to see in the physical. Even when you go to the nirvana consciousness, your body-mind life has the sense of separateness, and that is useful. But sometimes this is a very interesting thing. When I go to the nirvana consciousness of the infinite, then can there be a confusion? Because now that's exactly what we were discussing. The answer is very clearly yes, there can be a confusion. When you are going to the nirvana consciousness and you start seeing the oneness, can there be a disorder in the physical world? Yes, there can be. And that's the phenomenon of your Jadavat, Unmattavat, Pishachavat, and Unmattavat, Pishachavat, Jadavat, Balavat. This can happen. But if you are sufficiently developed, then two parts of you are there. You are seeing the infinite and you are seeing also the finite, not in a disorderly manner. But sometimes when this can happen, okay? That's why it is necessary to see the finiteness, see the separateness. If you don't see the separateness and you go to the higher level, there will be confusion. And that confusion does happen in many cases. There are very interesting cases also in the ashram where this was there. Okay? So I'm just giving you one hint. If you're interested in this phenomena, you can go. There is a fellow in Tamil Nadu. He has passed away in the 1980s. Okay, his name was Pundu Swami. Okay, he was like that. He was absolutely Jadavat. Okay, that means he is just existing in the physical world. He is in a higher consciousness, but he is existing in the physical world, and he is not doing anything for himself. Jadavat. Okay. If someone comes and gives him food, he eats. If someone doesn't give him any food, he does not eat. He does not take a bath. But if someone comes and gives him a bath, he accepts very willingly. Someone comes and gives him a cigarette, he smokes. Okay. The internet is, all pictures also are there of him. Okay. It's very interesting. So this is one example of Jadavat. But you can also be Balavat. You would behave like a little child. Okay. There have been cases in the ashram like that. There is one particular case was like that. So these things can happen. So in other words, what Shendra is saying is, it is absolutely necessary to see separateness in the physical world so long as you are here. If you are not, then there will be confusion and there will be a lot of disordered behavior in the physical world. Okay, that can happen. So we got 3 minutes. So this was, in this paragraph, Shendra is describing the necessity of seeing the separateness, which is ultimately unreal. But it is very, very valid at this lower level. Okay, so we have got only 2 minutes. But basically, this is what he's saying. Now, I'll try and finish it. On the other hand, okay, I'm reading the next sentence. On the other hand, the disappearance of these finite forms of the manifestation is evidently a factor in the problem, but does not by itself convict them of unreality. When you go to the Nirvana consciousness, you see the physical world as unreality, but you don't need to jump to the conclusion that they're permanently unreal. That's what Shendra is saying. The disappearance may be only a withdrawal from manifestation. Okay. It can be that they exist in a subtle form, not the physical form. The cosmic manifestation of the timeless takes place in the successions of time. Its forms must therefore be temporary in their appearance on the surface, but they are eternal in their essential power of manifestation. For they are held always implicit and potential in the essence of things. There you are again. The essence of things contains all the forms that it can produce. The seed of the tree can produce everything that the tree normally exhibits in the essential consciousness from which they emerge. Timeless consciousness can always turn their abiding potentiality into terms of time actuality. So, in the timelessness, all the possibilities of time are there. That's what he's saying. The world would be unreal only if itself and its forms were images without substance of being, figments of consciousness presented to itself by the reality as pure figments and then abolished forever. Note the words forever. If that is there, then the Mayavada philosophy would be valid. But they are not banished forever at all. The world continues to exist for others. But if manifestation or the power of manifestation is eternal, if all is the being of Brahman, the reality, then this unreality or illusoriness cannot be the fundamental character of things or of the cosmos in which they make their appearance. It's possible for the Brahman consciousness to remain unmanifest or remain manifest. You can't take away that right. That's what he's saying. Okay, so very logical what Shendra is saying. So now again he continues with a theory of Maya. What is the justification for that? You take it up next time. A theory of Maya. So, Shilpa, Archana, Devi, Jasmine.